and every season, Skinwalker Ranch promises a new secret. This time, the claim is a second tunnel, hidden, unexplained, and according to the cast, deliberately concealed. Before you believe it, let's separate the marketing from the evidence. Because here's the truth up front. What you're about to hear is not a confirmed historical or scientific discovery. It's a claim made on a reality television program by the people who produce and star in that program. That distinction matters, and we're going to hold on to it throughout this entire story. Not because the ranch itself isn't interesting. It genuinely is, and it has a documented history stretching back decades. But because the way that history gets packaged for television is very different from the way verified science actually works. And understanding that difference is the whole point of what follows. Let's start with what is actually documented, because there's more real history here than most viewers realize. Skinwalker Ranch is a real property, roughly 500 acres, located in the Uinta Basin of northeastern Utah, near the small town of Ballard. The land sits close to the Uinta and Ouray Reservation, home to the Ute Indian tribe. The name Skinwalker itself comes from Navajo tradition, referring to a malevolent supernatural figure capable of shapeshifting. It's worth noting clearly that this term originates from a specific indigenous cultural and spiritual tradition, and its use in popular media, often stripped of that original context, has drawn criticism from Native scholars and community members who argue it misrepresents sacred beliefs for entertainment purposes. That's a legitimate part of this story too, even though it rarely makes it into the television marketing. Reports of strange phenomena on and around this land go back generations, passed down through local and indigenous oral history long before any television camera arrived. But the version of the story most people know today begins in the 1990s with a family named Sherman. Terry and Gwen Sherman purchased the ranch in 1994. According to their own accounts, documented extensively by investigative journalist George Knapp of Callis TV in Las Vegas, the family began experiencing a range of bizarre incidents almost immediately. These included reported catapult mutilations, unexplained lights in the sky, sightings of unusual animals, and other phenomena the family said they couldn't explain. It's important to state plainly, these are the Sherman family's personal accounts given to journalists. They were widely reported, but they were not independently verified through scientific investigation at the time they occurred. George Knapp's reporting on the Sherman family's claims drew wider attention to the property throughout the mid-1990s. That attention eventually reached Robert Bigelow, an aerospace entrepreneur and hotel industry businessman who had a long-standing personal interest in unexplained aerial phenomena. In 1996, Bigelow purchased the ranch from the Shermans through an organization he founded called the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. NIDS operated as a privately funded research organization, and this part is well documented through public records and later reporting. The organization employed a small team of researchers, including biochemist Colm Kelleher, who spent years studying the property using surveillance equipment, sensors, and other scientific instruments. Kelleher later co-authored the book Hunt for the Skinwalker with George Knapp, published in 2005, which remains one of the most detailed public accounts of the ranch's early research period. It's worth noting that NIDS's internal findings were never published in peer-reviewed scientific journals, and the organization dissolved in 2004 without releasing a formal externally verified conclusion about what, if anything, was happening on the property. Here's where the story connects to something much bigger than one ranch in Utah, and this next part is genuinely, verifiably real, not television marketing. Robert Bigelow's interest in unexplained phenomena extended well beyond his private ranch research. In 2007, the Pentagon awarded a contract worth approximately $22 million to Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, a company associated with Bigelow, to run a program called the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, commonly abbreviated as a DUBSAP. This program operated until roughly 2012, and its existence was confirmed through Department of Defense records and reported in detail by the New York Times in a landmark December 2017 investigation written by Leslie Keene, Ralph Blumenthal, and Helene Cooper. That same reporting revealed the existence of a related, smaller effort known as the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP, which involved Pentagon official Luis Elizondo. This is genuinely significant, confirmed history. A private aerospace entrepreneur with a documented interest in a Utah ranch also received millions of dollars in Pentagon funding to study unidentified aerial phenomena more broadly. The two threads are real and connected. What remains far less clear and far less verified is what these programs actually concluded. Portions of ABASAP's work reportedly included studying reports from the Skinwalker Ranch property itself, but the specific findings were never made fully public, and no independently verified, peer-reviewed evidence from this research has been released confirming supernatural or extraterrestrial activity on the property or anywhere else. In 2016, ownership of the ranch changed hands again. Utah real estate businessman Brandon Fugel, through his company Adamantium Real Estate, purchased the property. Fugel has spoken publicly and extensively about his decision to continue research on the land, and under his ownership, the ranch entered its most publicly visible phase yet. That visibility arrived in 2020 when the History Channel premiered The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. The series follows a team of researchers, including Dr. Travis Taylor, as they use modern scientific equipment, drones, ground-penetrating radar, spectrometers, and other instrumentation to investigate the property on camera. Travis Taylor's academic credentials are independently verifiable and genuinely impressive. He holds doctorates in optical science and engineering and in aerospace systems engineering, along with multiple master's degrees, and spent decades working on advanced technology programs for the U.S. Department of Defense and NASA before his television career began. The show has been a significant commercial success for the History Channel, running for multiple seasons and spawning companion series and specials. And like most long-running reality television, it has developed a familiar promotional rhythm, one that brings us back to the claim at the center of this story. Recent marketing for the series has teased what's being described as a second tunnel discovered on the property, characterized in promotional language as something nobody was supposed to know about. Let's be precise about what this claim actually is and what it isn't. It is a statement made in promotional material for a commercial television program. It has not been verified by independent geologists. It has not been examined by outside archaeologists. It has not been confirmed through any government agency, academic institution, or peer-reviewed publication. No public record currently establishes the tunnel's actual existence in the form described, its age, its origin, or its connection to any of the ranch's broader historical claims. This doesn't necessarily mean the claim is false. It means it currently sits entirely outside the boundary of independently verified fact, in the same category as many other dramatic reveals the show has promoted before it. And that pattern is worth examining closely, because it isn't new and it isn't unique to this particular claim. Nearly every season of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch has opened or closed with a similar structure. A hidden discovery, a suppressed secret, a revelation the team suggests will change everything. Media researchers who study reality television format have long documented this exact narrative structure across the genre, not specific to this show, but common to unscripted programming built around mystery and discovery. The formula typically follows 3 beats. Manufacture urgency around an unexplained event, promise a major revelation, then deliver an outcome that's dramatic on screen but ambiguous in substance, setting up the next cliffhanger. Longtime UFO researcher and skeptic Robert Schaffer has written critically about this pattern in the broader paranormal television genre, and SETI Institute astronomer Seth Shostak has separately raised concerns about how blending credentialed science with entertainment formatting can blur public understanding of what's actually been established versus what's simply been dramatized for television. Neither of these critiques amounts to proof that any specific claim from the show is false, but they do offer a useful lens. Cliffhangers are a completely normal, expected tool in episodic television, and recognizing that doesn't require cynicism about the people involved. It just requires separating the format from the facts. So let's actually do that separation clearly one more time. Here is what we know, verified through independent, cross-checkable sources. The ranch is a real property with a documented ownership history spanning the Sherman family, Robert Bigelow's National Institute for Discovery Science, and now Brandon Fugel's Adamantium Real Estate. The Sherman family's reported experiences in the 1990s were extensively documented by journalist George Knapp, though the experiences themselves remain personal accounts rather than independently confirmed events. Robert Bigelow's connection to a genuine, confirmed Pentagon program, AWSAP, is a matter of public record, verified by Department of Defense documentation and major news reporting. Dr. Travis Taylor's academic credentials and decades-long defense career are independently verifiable through multiple sources. The television series itself, its cast, its premiere date, and its use of real scientific instrumentation on camera are all documented facts. Here is what remains unverified. The specific content of NIDS's internal research findings from the 1990s and early 2000s was never published for independent scientific review. The detailed conclusions of the AADASAP program, including any findings specifically related to the ranch, have not been fully released or independently confirmed, and most immediately relevant to this story. The existence, nature, and significance of the newly promoted second tunnel has not been verified by anyone outside the production of the television show itself. This distinction between a well-documented history and an unverified promotional claim sitting on top of it matters far beyond this one property in Utah. It's a pattern that shows up again and again across modern media coverage of the unexplained, and it's worth naming directly because recognizing it is a genuinely useful skill for any viewer. Genuine scientific credentials are real and verifiable. Genuine government programs, genuine historical events, and genuine documented reports can all exist alongside claims that haven't cleared the same bar of evidence. And when they're packaged together in the same story, the same tone, and the same authoritative narration, audiences can struggle to tell where the confirmed history ends and the promotional claim begins. That's not necessarily a deliberate deception on anyone's part. It's simply how modern entertainment media, built around mystery and audience retention, tends to operate. The incentive structure rewards a dramatic tease, not a cautious footnote. This is also worth situating in a broader historical pattern. Claims of unexplained phenomena, from ancient stone monuments to modern government reports, have repeatedly followed a similar arc throughout the 20th and 21st centuries. A genuinely puzzling initial observation, followed by years of speculative elaboration in popular media, followed eventually by either scientific explanation, continued mystery, or complete debunking, depending on the case. Historians and researchers of media literacy point to this arc as one reason why healthy skepticism, rather than either blind acceptance or reflexive dismissal, tends to serve the public best when new claims of this kind emerge. So where does that leave us with the second tunnel of Skinwalker Ranch? It leaves us exactly where careful, evidence-based thinking should leave us. With an open question, not a closed one. The claim may eventually be substantiated through independent survey, academic study, or released government documentation. And if it is, that would be a legitimately newsworthy update to a well-documented decades-long story. Or it may join a long list of promotional reveals from unscripted television that generated headlines and viewership without ever producing externally verified evidence. As of now, there is no way to responsibly know which outcome applies, because the necessary independent verification simply hasn't happened yet. The next time a headline tells you, "A scientist just found something nobody was supposed to know," the right response isn't to dismiss it outright, and it isn't to accept it uncritically either. It's to ask a simpler, more durable question. Who is making this claim? What evidence currently backs it up? And has anyone outside the story itself been allowed to independently check it? Until that question is answered, the second tunnel of Skinwalker Ranch remains exactly what it currently is. A promise made by a television show, resting on top of a genuinely fascinating and well-documented piece of American paranormal history, waiting for the evidence to catch up to the marketing. And whatever the answer eventually turns out to be, the real lesson of this story was never really about tunnels or ranches or even Utah. It's about the habit of mind that separates documented history from promotional storytelling. A habit worth applying not just to Skinwalker Ranch, but to every dramatic headline that promises a secret nobody was supposed to know. It's worth pausing on why this particular piece of land became the focus of so much attention in the first place. Because the answer says as much about human psychology as it does about the property itself. The Uinta Basin sits in a genuinely remote, sparsely populated stretch of northeastern Utah, ringed by mountains and largely cut off from major population centers. Isolated rural areas like this have, throughout American history, repeatedly become focal points for reports of unexplained phenomena, in part because fewer people are present to witness events, fewer independent observers exist to cross-check claims, and the landscape itself lends a sense of remoteness and mystery that urban environments rarely produce. This isn't a criticism of anyone who has reported experiences there. It's simply an observation, supported by decades of research into how and where unexplained phenomena reports tend to cluster geographically. The Sherman family's original decision to sell the ranch after less than 2 years of ownership is also part of the documented record. According to their own statements to George Knapp, the frequency and intensity of the incidents they reported became overwhelming enough that they chose to leave the property altogether, despite having intended to raise cattle there long term. Their departure and Robert Bigelow's subsequent purchase effectively transferred the site from a private family ranch into what became, for nearly 3 decades now, a continuously monitored research property, first informally under Enid Deese, and now far more visibly under Brandon Fugel's ownership and the television production built around it. It's also worth giving proper weight to what NIDS actually accomplished during its operational years, because the organization's work is sometimes flattened in popular retellings into either total vindication or total failure, when the documented reality is more nuanced. Colm Kelleher and his colleagues installed surveillance cameras, motion sensors, and other monitoring equipment across the property for an extended period. Their internal reporting, later summarized in Hunt for the Skinwalker, described a range of recorded anomalies: equipment malfunctions, unexplained sounds, and other logged incidents. What the book does not claim, and what Kelleher himself has been careful about in subsequent interviews, is a definitive scientific explanation for these incidents. The material functions as a detailed case study and first-hand account, not as a peer-reviewed scientific conclusion. And Kelleher has generally avoided overstating what the research proved. The 2017 New York Times investigation deserves a closer look too, because it remains the single most consequential piece of journalism connecting this Utah ranch to the highest levels of the U.S. Government's engagement with unidentified aerial phenomena. Reporters Leslie Keene, Ralph Blumenthal, and Helene Cooper confirmed, through Pentagon sources and internal documentation, that the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program had operated within the Department of Defense, and that Luis Elizondo, a career intelligence official, had directed related efforts before resigning in 2017 to protest what he described as excessive internal secrecy and lack of institutional support. That same reporting confirmed the earlier WSAP contract awarded to Bigelow's company, and noted that some of the funded research had included visits to and study of the Skinwalker Ranch property itself. This reporting is independently verifiable, extensively fact-checked by one of the world's most rigorous news organizations, and remains the gold standard for what can actually be said with confidence about the government's documented interest in this subject. What that same reporting does not do, and what subsequent government disclosures have not done either, is confirm any specific supernatural or extraterrestrial explanation for events at the ranch. The 2021 preliminary government report on unidentified aerial phenomena, submitted to Congress through the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, cataloged a number of unexplained sightings gathered primarily from military aviators, but it explicitly stated that the majority of cases lacked sufficient data for firm conclusions, and it did not reference the Skinwalker Ranch property specifically in its public findings. A follow-up, more detailed report from the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in 2024 examined decades of historical UAP claims, including government-adjacent research efforts, and found no verified evidence of extraterrestrial technology or activity in the cases it reviewed. Both of these documents are public record, and both are worth knowing about because they represent the most rigorous, most recent, and most official government assessments directly relevant to the broader subject this ranch has become associated with. Understanding this fuller context changes how the newest promotional claim should be read. It's not that a second tunnel is inherently implausible. Plenty of genuine archaeological and geological features go undiscovered for years on undeveloped rural land, and ground-penetrating radar surveys of the kind the show uses on camera can and do sometimes reveal real subsurface structures. The issue isn't plausibility. The issue is process. A genuine discovery, handled